Field applied hazard markings, where caution, warning, or danger hazard markings such as labels or signs are required by this code. The marker shall meet the following requirements. The marker shall be of sufficient durability to withstand the environment involved in warn of the hazards using effective words, colors, symbols, or any combination thereof. The marker should be permanently affixed to the equipment or wiring method and should not be handwritten. Identification of disconnected means. Each disconnected means should be legibly marked to indicate its purpose unless located and arranged to the purpose is evident. And other than one or two family dwellings, the marker shall include the identification and location of the circuit source that supplies the disconnected means unless located and arranged so the identification and location of the circuit source is evident. The marker should be of sufficient durability to withstand the environment involved. Engineered series combination systems. Equipment enclosures for circuit breakers or fuses applied in compliance with series combination ratings selected under engineering supervision in accordance with 240.86a should be legibly marked in the field as directed by the engineer to indicate the equipment has been applied with the series combination rating. The marker shall meet the requirements in 110.21b and should be readily visible and state the following. Caution engineered series. Okay, so some of these things I'll go through, some of the things I'll just scroll through, okay? Tested series combination systems. Okay. Current transformers. This is not these aren't videos that that you should be using for a journeyman electrician. This is for most likely apprentice electricians. So you're gonna be pausing through the videos and seeing what it says, most likely, if you're interested. Lockable disconnected means. If a disconnected means is required to be lockable open elsewhere in this code, it should be capable of being locked in the open position. The provisions for locking shall remain in place with or without the lock installed. Part 2. Not over 1,000 volts AC, 1,500 volts DC nominal. Spaces about electrical equipment. Working space and access to and egress from working space should be provided and maintained about all electrical equipment to permit ready and safe operation and maintenance of such equipment. Open equipment doors should not impede access to and egress from the working space. Access or egress is impeded if one or more simultaneously open equipment doors restrict working space access to be less than 610 millimeters or 24 inches wide and 2 meters or 6.5 feet high. When such doors are or can be open 90 degrees. Working space for equipment likely to require examination, adjustment, servicing, or maintenance while energized should comply with the dimensions of 110.26A1, 110.26A2, 110.26A3, and 110.26A4, or as required or permitted elsewhere in this code. By special permission, smaller working spaces should be permitted where all exposed live parts operate at not greater than 30 volts RMS, 42 volts peak, or 60 volts DC. Depth of working space. The depth of the working space and the direction of live parts should not be less than that specified in Table 110.26A1 unless the requirements of 110.26A1A or 110.26A1B are met. Distances shall be measured from the enclosure front or opening if such live parts are enclosed. Okay, this is the table for it. Nominal voltage to ground, 0, 150 AC or DC. It's 900 millimeters. This condition 1. You see what condition 1 is down here. Exposed or enclosed live parts on one side of the working space, and no exposed or enclosed live or grounded parts on the other side of the working space, or exposed or enclosed live parts on both sides of the working space that are effectively guarded by insulating materials. See, condition 2 is different. Condition 3 is different. And you see different conditions. Expose or enclose live parts on one side of the working space and grounded parts on the other side of the working space. Concrete, brick, or tile wall shall be considered as grounded, and expose or enclose live parts on both sides of the working space. And you have different conditions, stuff like that. Alright, dead front assemblies. Working space should not be required in the back or sides of assemblies, such as dead front switchboards, switchgear, motor control sensors. Okay, I'm gonna go through this. Existing buildings. In existing buildings, when electrical equipment is being replaced, condition 2 working clearance should be permitted between dead front switchboards, switchgear, both panel boards, or motor control centers located across the aisle from each other. Okay. Width of working space. The width of the working space in front of the electrical equipment should be the width of the equipment, or 762 millimeters, whichever is greater. In all cases, the working space should permit at least a 90-degree opening of equipment doors or hinged panels. Height of working space. The workspace should be clear and extend from the grade floor or platform to a height of 2 meters, or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater, within the height requirements of the section of the equipment or support structures such as concrete pads associated with electrical installation and located above or below the electrical equipment should be permitted to extend not more than 150 millimeters beyond the front of the electrical equipment. Where equipment likely to require examination, adjustment, servicing, or maintenance while energized is required by installation, instructions, or function to be located in a space with limited access to all the following should apply. Okay, where equipment is installed above the rim ceiling, there should be an opening not smaller than 559 millimeters by 559 millimeters, or 22 inches by 22 inches, or in the crawl space. There should be an accessible opening not smaller than 559 millimeters by 762 millimeters, or 20 inches by 30 inches. The width of the working space should be the width of the equipment enclosure, a minimum of 762 millimeters, or 30 inches, whichever is greater. All enclosure doors or hinge panels should be capable of opening. The space of the enclosure should comply with the depth requirements. Separation from high voltage equipment where switches cutouts or other equipment operating at 1000 volts AC or 50,000 volts DC nominal or less are installed in the vault. One more enclosure where there are exposed live parts or exposed wire operating over 1000 volts AC or 1500 volts DC nominal. The high voltage equipment should be effectively separated from the space occupied by the equipment operating at 1000 volts AC, 1500 volts DC nominal or less by suitable partition, fence, or screen. Grade floor platform. The grade floor platform in the required working space should be kept clear and is level and flat, practical for the entire required depth and width of the working space. Clear spaces. The working space should required by the section should not be used for storage when normally enclosed live parts are exposed for inspection or service in the working space. If any passageway or general open space should be suitably guarded. Entrance to egress from working space. Minimum require at least one entry to sufficient area should be provided to give access to and egress from working space by electrical equipment. Large equipment. For large equipment that contains OCPDs or overcurrent protection devices, switching devices, or control devices, there should be one entrance to and egress from required working space not less than 24 inches wide and 600.5 feet high at each end of the working space. This requirement should apply to either of the following conditions: for equipment rated 1200 amps or more and over 1.8 meters wide, for disconnected means installed in accordance with 225A or 230.71B, where the combined ampere rating is 1200 amps or more, and where combined with is over 1.8 meters. A single entrance to and egress from required working space should be permitted where either conditions in 1.26 C2A or 110.26 C2B is met. Unobstructed egress, where the location permits a continuous and unobstructed way of egress travel. Extra working space, where the depth of the working space is twice that required by 110.26. A single entrance should be permitted. It should be located such that the distance from equipment to the nearest edge of the entrance is not less than the minimum clear distance specified. Personnel doors, where equipment rated 800 amps or more that contain OCPDs, switching devices, or control devices installed. There are personal doors intended for entrance to and egress from the working space less than 7.6 meters from the nearest edge of the working space. The door should open at least 90 degrees. Illumination should be provided for all working spaces about service equipment, switchboards, switchgear, and closed panel boards or motor control centers installed indoors. Control of all luminaires by automatic means should not be permitted for the working space. Additional lighting outlets should not be required where the working space is illuminated by an adjacent light source or as permitted by 21070A1, section number 1 for switch receptacles. Dedicated equipment space. All service equipment, switchboards, switchgear, closed panel boards, and motor control centers should be located in dedicated spaces and protected from damage. Indoor installation shall comply with 110.26E1A through 110.26E1D. Dedicated electrical space is spaces equal to the width and depth of the equipment and extending from the floor to a height of 1.8 meters above the equipment or to the structural ceiling or whichever is lower shall be dedicated to the electrical installation. No piping ducts, leak protection apparatus, or other equipment foreign to the electrical installation should be located in the zone. Foreign systems, the area above the dedicated space required by 110.26 E1A should be permitted to contain foreign systems provided protection installed to avoid damage to the electrical equipment from condensation leaks or breaks in such foreign systems. Sprinkler protection should be permitted for dedicated space where the piping complies with this section. Suspended ceilings, a drop, suspended, or similar ceiling that does not add strength to the building structure should not be considered a structural ceiling. Outdoor installation should comply with 110.26 E2A through 110.26 E2C. Okay, still identifying close protection from consequences. Workspace to workspace shall be included. Guarding of live parts. Live parts guarded against access to contact something elsewhere required or permitted by its code. Live parts, electrical equipment operating at 50 volts AC to 1000 volts AC, 1500 volts DC nominal should be guarded against accidental contact by approved enclosures or by any of the following means. You see the means by location in a room, by prominent substantial partitions or screens, by location on a balcony, gallery, or platform elevated and arranged so as to exclude unqualified persons. By elevation above the floor or other working surface as follows. A minimum of 8 feet for 50 volts to 300 volts. Minimum of 8 feet for 301 volts to 600 volts. Minimum of 2.62 meters or 8 feet and 7 inches for 601 volts to 1000 volts between ungrounded conductors. Prevent physical damage in location where electrical equipment is likely to be exposed to physical damage. Enclosures or guards should be so arranged and of such strength as to prevent such damage. Warning signs, entrances to rooms and other guarded locations that contain exposed live parts should be marked with conspicuous warning signs forbidding unqualified persons to enter. The market should comply with 110.21B. Enclosure types. Okay. Other than surrounding fences or walls, enclosures or switchboards, switchgear, enclosed panel boards, industrial control panels, motor control centers, meter sockets, enclosed switches, transfer switches, power outlets, circuit breakers, adjustable speed drive systems, pull-out switches, portable power distribution equipment, termination boxes, general purpose transformers, fire pump controllers, fire pump motors, and motor controllers intended for such locations should be marked with an enclosure type number as shown in Table 110.28. Table 110.28 should be used for selecting these enclosures for use in specific locations other than hazardous locations. The enclosures are not intended to protect against the conditions such as condensation, icing, corrosion, or contamination that may occur within the enclosure or enter via the raceway or sealed openings. On site, within site, order code specifies equipment should be in sight from, within sight from, or within sight of the building structure or other equipment. So that's how be visible, not more than 15 meters from the building structure or other equipment. Okay, I'll just scroll through 1000 volts because we're not really working with more than 1000 volts. So I'm just gonna scroll through it.